I want to tell you about the moment I stopped feeling crazy. It was a Tuesday night. I was sitting at my kitchen table, drinking coffee that had gone cold, and I was staring at my phone. And I just knew. I knew that everything I had suspected for the past year and a half was real. I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't been oversensitive or paranoid or dramatic. It was all real. And the best part? Dana had just proven it herself. She walked right into what I set up for her, and she had absolutely no idea. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this whole thing started, because it didn't happen overnight. It built up slowly, the way most things do when someone is messing with your life just enough that you start to question your own mind. My name is not important. What matters is that I'm a pretty private person. I always have been. I don't post everything on social media. I don't share my business with people I don't fully trust. I keep a small circle, and I like it that way. I've been married to my husband, Ryan, for 6 years. Ryan is a good man. He works hard, he loves me, and he is very close with his family. That part I knew going in. His mom, his dad, his younger sister, they talk every day, they have Sunday dinners together. They are the kind of family that is always in each other's lives. I come from a much quieter family, so at first I thought it was kind of sweet. All that closeness, all that togetherness. And then I met Dana. Dana is Ryan's younger sister. She's 29, she's pretty, she's charming when she wants to be, and she has this way of making you feel like she really cares about you, like she's genuinely interested in your life. She asks a lot of questions, she remembers small details, she laughs at the right times. For a while, I actually liked her. The thing about Dana is that she's the kind of person who always needs to know what's going on. Not because she cares, but because information is power, and Dana likes power. It took me a long time to understand that. Looking back, I wish I had figured it out sooner. The first time something felt off, I brushed it off completely. Ryan and I had an argument one evening about money. Nothing serious, just one of those normal married couple disagreements about budgeting and priorities. We talked it out, we moved on, and I didn't think about it again. About a week later, Dana called me. Just to chat, she said, and somewhere in the middle of the conversation, she said, "I just want you to know that every couple argues about money. It's completely normal. Ryan told me you guys had a rough week." I remember going quiet for a second. Ryan had not told her anything. I knew that because we had specifically talked about keeping our arguments between us. Ryan is actually very private about our marriage, even with his family. He would not have called his sister to talk about a disagreement we'd had. So how did she know? I told myself maybe she guessed. Maybe Ryan, it seemed off and she picked up on it. Maybe it was just a coincidence. I let it go. The second time, it was harder to let go. I had been dealing with a health scare, nothing life-threatening, just something I was waiting on test results for. I hadn't told anyone except Ryan. I wasn't ready to talk about it, and I didn't want people worrying. It was private. One Sunday at family dinner, Dana pulled me aside and said, "Hey, how are you feeling? Like, really feeling?" And the way she looked at me, it wasn't casual. She knew something. I said I was fine. She gave me this long look and said, "Okay, but just know I'm here if you need to talk." I went home that night and I asked Ryan if he had said anything to anyone about what I was going through. He said no, absolutely not. He looked me straight in the eye, and I believed him. So I started paying attention. Over the next few months, I kept a mental list. Every time Dana said something she shouldn't have known, I filed it away. It happened more often than you think. She mentioned a vacation Ryan and I were considering before we had told anyone. She asked about a job interview I had gone on, which I had told exactly nobody about. She referenced a conversation Ryan and I had in our own bedroom, in our own home, that she could not have possibly heard. By this point, I wasn't brushing anything off anymore. I was genuinely unsettled. I started thinking about all the times Dana had been in our house. She came over fairly often, sometimes when Ryan and I were both home, sometimes when Ryan was home alone. A few times she had even been in the house without either of us there. She had a key for emergencies, which we had given her about 2 years earlier. I started thinking about my phone. Had she ever had access to it? Yes, there were a few times I had left it sitting on the counter while she was over. Once I remembered her picking it up and handing it to me, saying I had a notification. At the time, I thought nothing of it. I started thinking about my laptop. Same thing. It sat on the kitchen table sometimes, wide open. I thought about the little notebook I keep on my nightstand where I write down things I don't want to forget, appointments, reminders, thoughts, sometimes personal things. My stomach dropped. I went to my best friend, Cassie. Cassie has known me since college, and she has zero connection to Ryan's family. I sat in her kitchen and I laid out everything. Every incident, every weird comment, every moment that hadn't added up. Cassie looked at me and said, "That is not in your head. Something is going on." That was the moment I stopped questioning myself and started making a plan. First, I needed to test my theory before I accused anyone of anything. I'm not the kind of person who blows things up without being sure, so I decided to plant something fake and see what happened. I wrote something in my notebook, something believable but completely made up. I wrote that Ryan and I were thinking about moving out of state, far away. I wrote it like it was something we had been seriously discussing, with a couple of details to make it feel real. I wrote the name of a city. I wrote that we were worried about telling the family. I wrote that we hadn't made a final decision yet. None of it was true. Ryan didn't even know I had written it. We had never once talked about moving. Then I waited. 11 days later, Ryan called me while I was at work. He sounded confused. He said, "Hey, my mom just called me. She's really upset. She heard we might be moving to Denver." There it was. Ryan's mom had no way of knowing that. Cassie didn't know it. Nobody knew it because it wasn't real. I had written it in my notebook, and it had traveled from my nightstand to Ryan's mother's phone in 11 days. Dana was the only person who could have made that happen. I told Ryan everything that night. I sat him down after dinner and I went through all of it. Every incident, every strange comment, the notebook test, all of it. He was quiet for a long time, and then he said, "Are you absolutely sure?" Not in a dismissive way, in the way a person asks when they're hoping they misunderstood, because understanding it would be devastating. I told him yes, I was absolutely sure. He believed me. That mattered more than I can put into words. But believing me and doing something about it were two different things. Ryan wanted to talk to Dana. I asked him to wait because honestly, I wanted more. I didn't want her to be able to talk her way out of it. Dana is smart and she's quick, and if we confronted her with just the notebook story, she would find a way to explain it away. She would say Ryan's mom must have overheard something, or that Ryan had mentioned Denver in passing and forgotten, or that it was a wild coincidence. I needed something cleaner, so I set the real trap. I typed a note on my phone in the Notes app, and I left it there, easy to find, easy to read. The note said that I had found out Ryan's dad had been secretly helping Dana with money for years, a significant amount, and that Ryan didn't know, and that I was furious, and that I was thinking about telling Ryan everything. I wrote it like I had just found out, and I was venting to myself. Every single word was made up. I had no reason to believe any of it was true. but it was exactly the kind of thing that would terrify Dana if she read it, because if I told Ryan that his dad had been secretly giving Dana money, it would start a major family fight. Dana would want to get ahead of that story. She wouldn't be able to help herself. I left my phone on the kitchen counter the next time Dana came over for dinner. I made sure to step away from it a few times. I made sure she had opportunity. Cassie was there that night too. I had invited her, told her the plan, and asked her to watch Dana while I was out of the room. When I came back to the kitchen after about 10 minutes, Dana was standing near the counter. My phone was exactly where I left it. She smiled at me. Totally normal. We had a nice dinner. 2 days later, Dana texted me out of nowhere. She said she had heard something through the grapevine and she just wanted to say that whatever I had heard about their dad was probably a misunderstanding and that she hoped I would come to her or Ryan before jumping to any conclusions. I read that text 3 times. Then I took a screenshot and sent it to Cassie, who immediately called me and said, "Oh my God." Dana had read my note, the fake note, on my private phone, which she had no business touching, and she was so rattled by what she read that she couldn't even wait to see if I would bring it up. She tried to get ahead of it. She basically confirmed everything. I waited one more day. I wanted to be calm, I wanted to be clear, and then I called Dana and I asked her to come over. Just her. She came on a Saturday morning. I made coffee, we sat at the kitchen table, and I could tell she had no idea what was coming because she was completely relaxed. A little too relaxed, actually. Dana always performs comfort when she's nervous. I put my phone on the table and I pulled up her text. I said, "I want to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. How did you know about the note I wrote on my phone?" She looked at the text, she looked at me, and then she did exactly what I expected. She said she didn't know what I was talking about. She said maybe someone else had told her. She said I was being paranoid. I just let her talk. When she was done, I told her about the notebook, the Denver story, Ryan's mom. I told her I had been documenting things for months. I told her about every single incident on my list, one by one, slowly, while she sat there and her face changed color. I told her that I knew she'd been going through my things, reading my notes, looking at my phone. I told her I knew she'd been reporting information to Ryan's mom. I told her I had been patient and methodical and that I had made absolutely sure before I said a word. And then I said, "I'm not asking you to explain yourself. I'm telling you that this is over." She cried. She said she was just worried about Ryan, that she wanted to make sure her brother was okay, that she never meant any harm. She made herself the victim in about 45 seconds flat. It was honestly impressive. I told her I heard her, and I told her it didn't matter why she did it. What mattered was that she had violated my privacy over and over for years, and it was done. I won't pretend the aftermath was clean. It wasn't. Ryan talked to her that same afternoon. He was hurt and angry in that quiet way he gets, which is actually scarier than yelling. Dana tried the same thing with him, the tears, the worry, the good intentions. Ryan told her that good intentions don't make it okay to go through your sister-in-law's personal things and report back to your mother. His mom was defensive at first. She said Dana had just been looking out for her son. Ryan told her that looking out for him did not include invading his wife's privacy. It took a few weeks for things to settle. There were some tense Sunday dinners. There were some conversations I was not part of. Dana apologized to me eventually. A real apology, actually, which surprised me. I don't know if she meant it, but she said it. The emergency key is gone. She does not come to our house unless we have specifically invited her. Things are polite now, but they are not what they were. I think that's probably how they'll stay. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Not because you're paranoid, not because you're dramatic, but because your instincts are built from real things you have actually noticed. The discomfort you feel when something doesn't add up is not a character flaw, it's information. I spent a long time making excuses for Dana because I didn't want to believe it, because believing it meant a big, messy, uncomfortable situation, and I told myself that the mess wasn't worth it. But the mess was already happening. I just wasn't the one creating it. Once I accepted what was real, I stopped feeling anxious and started feeling focused. That shift changed everything. I didn't yell. I didn't blow up the family. I gathered my evidence, I stayed patient, and I let her walk into the trap herself. I'm telling you this not because I want you to go set traps for people in your life. I'm telling you this because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply pay attention, trust yourself, and wait. Dana thought she was the smart one. She'd been getting away with it for so long that she stopped being careful. That was her mistake.